morning. This is a great honor to have this kind of the course. I used to attend the professional development course arranged by AIAA in the past decades. So I like to learn. So this time I like to share what I learned in this particular subject. So for next 7 days, with respected colleagues, I'd like to share the recent developments in the area of the rarefied, the microscale gases, and the viscoelastic fluids. So when I sit here, just it occurred to me the rarefied, micro, viscoelastic is three different subjects. So in this room, did you watch the movie, the Kung Fu Panda? Any of you? How many? Oh, a lot. That's good. So in that movie, the words, still I can remember exact word. That word like, yesterday is the mystery. History. The tomorrow is mystery. So today is present. So can you follow? So in that context, I guess the rarefied is yesterday. Micro is today. Viscoelastic is tomorrow. At least to me. It's to me. So rarefied gas is old subject. The micro and nano is current subject. Why in the world I bring viscoelastic? Some of you never heard of it, but I recently become interested in this subject. To me, it's a future. To me, mystery. But I'll explain why all those three things can be touched within unified. The unifying yesterday and today and tomorrow. So that's the main point in at least 15 my class. So keep that in mind. What I'm thinking, that's exact I want to share with you. My others, you can find everything in my papers or others. So I asked Professor Ragesh, let me close this one. So he will distribute my about 12 or something papers on this subject, and also all the papers I found very useful. I struggle with those papers. Some of those papers, probably the most famous one would be this one, 1949, written by Professor Graz. This is classic. So even though this kinetic theory began Maxwell and Boltzmann, and this Graz work is serious attempt to use otherwise very theoretical gas kinetic theory. So I don't know how many of you try to read this one, because I don't know exact page, it's more than 100 pages. It's like books. Yeah. Lots of the mathematics. So they will intimidate, I guess, you. So probably one or two trial of these papers, probably you just give up. Rather than reading this masterpiece, probably you will learn from textbook. So I will show you sometimes that's a bit dangerous, because you can miss the original thought of Graz, because textbook always next generation summarize what they think that what Graz think. That's different. So I recommend you. So I distribute, include this one to all of you. So probably this afternoon, if you have the laptop, bring it. You can try to read it on your screen. when I touched that kind of subject. I was given 75 minutes, and then I will focus on Lecture-1. So this is, I will open it. So, Lecture-1 is the brief introduction of course and the history of the RMG, Rarefied, and micro and the gas dynamics. And, I guess this is the major point. Oh. So, rarefied means low density state, either high altitude or artificially maintained on the ground, some vacuum industries and so on. Microscales, the small scales, micro or nano, you can sense the typical size. You just pick up one piece of your hair, that is 100 micron. So you divide 10 times, they become 10 micron, which is the thickness of shockwave. So in the supersonic aircraft, there is the oblique shocks. That's the thickness is that small. So we are talking about gas motions in that very thin structures or small devices. The viscoelastic, I think in the science and engineering in general, the concept is very, very important. But visco is different from elastic. So this is the realm of continuum mechanism because the fluid and the structure are combined. So in elementary the mechanics, I think all of you took solid mechanics, fluid mechanics. Fluid mechanics is visco. The solid mechanics elasticity. So probably you heard about Hooke's law and the E, something like that. So why in the world, as training as the fluid dynamics, I became interested in this stuff because that's there. The everyday polymers, some glue, all those fluids is kind of it includes also elastic effects. So therefore, it's a big business, and also you can find such complex fluid, or you call it the soft mirrors. So in nature, a lot. So complex fluid like the macromolecular polymers, the visco-fluidic, elastic, amorphous solid. In solid, there are several types. One of the metals, and another one is here amorphous solid. Another would be like wood. There are different solids. I'm talking about amorphous solid. So, like glass. Glass is very, very famous subject, waiting for another Nobel Prize, chemistry and physics. Very difficult to understand. So, I'm not that interested in the glass, but I'm at least interested in some elastic effect in the fluid motion. So I will talk about this one maybe in the last lectures, 2 lectures. And then why I'm interested because when I look at Boltzmann equation, I will talk about again. Don't be confused by mathematics. Once you are intimidated by mathematics, you cannot think deep. So kinetics molecules and the macroscopic continuum. To me, all kinetic theory, all others, is the same thing. Based on individual atomic motions, you want to understand Big Bang. Therefore, different. And why the continuum word is very slightly confusing. You shouldn't say it's just continuum. It's basically, you can define statistical average, one ensemble average. So if you define such one, I call it continuum. It not necessarily should be continuum. That's a big jump. So the barrier I see is 2 things. One is whether or not you can define statistical average, or you can define second law of thermodynamics. Those 2 I'm worried about, nothing else. All others, I will not be intimidated by the difficulties and limitations. So, okay. Then, so our goal here is try to combine, or at least describe fluid motion, including molecular level, think as one. So, from Boltzmann equation to conservation law, I will avoid using Navier-Stokes law because when you say Navier-Stokes, it's limited. But the conservation laws is fundamental physical laws. Many people misunderstood that. It's because in the ordinary textbook, not teaching that way. You just immediately introduce Navier-Stokes and then ask the student memorize. That killed fluid dynamics. It's not interesting. It's too difficult because you saw Navier-Stokes for the first time. It's mass equations. So I deliberately avoid that kind of thing. So conservation laws. So macroscopic continuum means it's conservation laws. And the kinetic molecules is kind of just name indicated, trying to describe individual motions. And then, so fundamental physics of the RMG in the form of non-Navier, meaning overcoming limitation of the Navier, introduced in the 1822, about 2 centuries ago, and also Fourier, we call it constitutive law. In the fluid dynamics, it said it's inherent property of fluid, but that's questionable. Sometimes there is a constant law, by definition, may depending on flow condition. In particular, viscoelastic case. So there is some dangers. While Navier-Stokes is obviously inherent fluid quantities, not based depending on flow. But that may not be true in general fluid. That kind of things I will discuss. And the boundary condition, mathematicians normally hate boundary conditions because once you have boundary conditions, you cannot do anything. So you lose a job. So in many cases, they work with always without boundary condition. I mean, that's limitations. And with that limitation, they can develop proper mathematics. So you can use. That's all right. But remember, in order to have the practical outcome, you must provide boundary condition, which is very, very important. In particular, RMG. I will show you why. And then I mentioned viscoelastic, so solid mechanics. This is not fluid dynamics. When I talk about these things, Hookean law is solid mechanics, E. So you provide the strain and you measure the stress, and then you plot it. There's a beautiful linear curve until there's some the flattening. So that we call Hookean. That was almost 4 centuries ago. So, but the polymer or those shampoo, they don't behave like this one. So I like to provide some non-Hookean molecular basis. So very few people have done that. I've tried to do so. I'm not sure I will be successful, but based on what I learned from yesterday Rarefied, today's micro, I'm looking forward to tomorrow's Viscoelastic. By the way, when you venture into the new subject, there's good things and also bad things. Good thing is it keeps motivating you. You are excited. But bad thing is, yesterday, today, you establish some reputation in that field. But if you venture into new subjects, you are just beginners. So no one will appreciate you. So you have to compete from the beginning. Sometimes very difficult. So just remember that. But sometimes as a research, you need to do so. You did a fabulous job in PhD work. Later on, you will find you are running out of some new ideas. Then you have to find your own new ideas, but be prepared. In that case, you are just beginner. All right. So another one I like to emphasize, all things in this 15th class is personal opinion. So research is in essence of personal journeys in the self-knowledge. This is how I define it. So very careful about interpreting my way of thinking. Always try to add your own word for thinking. So I'm training in the aerodynamics, the aerospace engineering. The master's degree I did because it's around 87 or 89. At that time, safety is hot topics. But my supervisor was an expert in that one. He requested me to do some experimental work. So I did aeroacoustics. So I built some fan and the anechoic chamber and the major sound level using microphone and spectrum analyze based on Fourier transform. And then I took the venture to the abroad study, and then in the Michigan under the supervision of the Professor Rowe. He is the safety expert, but somehow I end up with a different subject, and the magnetohydrodynamics. The reason is simple. Originally, Professor Rowe suggested me the numerical schemes of Maxwell equations after 2 years coursework, after qualified design. I spent 3 months and then developed 2D finite volume Maxwell solvers and then explained Professor Rowe. And then next semester, I remember late September, I don't remember the exact name, but someone from outside, he gave us the seminar on this, the MHD, and I was impressed of some the issues. Yeah. So, and then I asked Professor Rowe, I want to change subject. I don't want to work on Maxwell equation as my PhD. The reason is simple. The 3 months, the work, I realized Maxwell equation is linear equations mathematically. So I just can project what will be final outcome after 2 or 3 years. I was probably developing 3D very complicated numerical code for linear equation. But sometimes I didn't like that. So I would rather have some challenging subjects in the fundamental level. So MHD seems the fit for that category. Why? Because in that remember that is 1994, 1993. It's early days of the safety application to magnetohydrodynamics. And then that person, the Riemann shock problem. So the gas dynamics shock problem, you have the shock tube and the membrane, high pressure and low pressure, and break this membrane, then I don't know which one is right, and the rarefied and the shock, something like that. Then always this rarefaction wave and the shock are separate. But in particular that seminar, I was impressed because in the magnetohydrodynamics, and then you have this kind of so in the gas dynamics, it's more like the very famous salt problem, rarefactions. And then the contact discontinuity, and the shock wave. Yeah, something like that. So in this gas, this is propagating right with the directions, and then this low density and the pressure rise up, and then this is density, the contact discontinuity, and the rarefaction. So anyway, this kind of thing. Always rarefaction and the contact discontinuity, shock wave are separate. There is these regions. As time goes on, this distance will be bigger. But in magnetohydrodynamics, I found that is interesting, something like that. Something like the shock and the rarefaction are attached. We called compoundable. But nobody knows why is this. Numerically, you can just apply finite volume method to 7 by 7 magnetohydrodynamic 1D equations. So you can find such one. And then nobody explained why we have this. So because of that, it is highlight of non-unity. So I just immediately saw, I want to do this thing. So change from linear Maxwell equation to the nonlinear magnetodynamics. Anyway, so there was the change of the subject. During the process, of course, I work on the computational fluid dynamics, but in order to understand these things, I spent most of the time in the mathematics library because I sensed that there must be something going on mathematically. So I thought I cannot find the answers for this kind of problem from the engineering literature because they're too busy in the CFD. So I spent 2 years. They are separate. The engineering school and the mathematics library is separated. At that time, there's no PDF. You have to visit library. You have to make a copy. All those papers on your own expense. And then somehow I little bit begin to understand the core of this problem. I think 1 year later I found the answers. Very different mathematical journals. It's about oil recovery quadratic system. So normally in the gas dynamics, so you are working on the Burgers equations, and then you have the viscosity term. You could have here one view viscosity. This is Burgers equations. This is color because unknown is just one. But one day I found they call quadratic system, and that looks like because the more than 2, you have the V derivative, and the important one is in this case this is correct because it's scale the power of 2. So that's what we call it a scalar quadratic. But MHD it turns out CU scale or is equal to UV X. I found this equation, and because mathematicians never thought about MHD. They just because they are mathematicians, naturally they thought, oh, this is scalar quadratic. Then they think about the 2x2 system. And that's the mathematicians supposedly they do this kind of thing. So I found this one. Then I applied all the theory to the MHD. So exactly the same the system. So there was applied math. And then after PhD, I became interested in R&D, Rarefied, other microscale gases. And then because I'm hired by university, not only I have to do some fundamental work, but I have to bring the money. So also I have to train master student and PhD student in the subject on these things. And I like it also too. I mean, the good thing about university is you can choose whatever you want to do. So in my case, it's parallel. I do both, the fundamental things and the very practical ones. So this is practical subject. Okay, why I become interested in this RMG? The reason is that 1994, in the intense study of PhD, one of my friends in the colleague, in the side by the desk, name of the Brown, his subject was the kinetic, the theory and continuum equations. And then he developed some numerical method for moment equations. And then somehow the final result not that impressive. You have the beautifications about 2 pages. I can show you when I have time. But the final conclusion is it's no better than Navier-Stokes. So that impressed me a lot. Again, it's like I like the challenging topic at the moment. Not anywhere here right now, but in that young age, 29, 20, 30 something, I was very ambitious. So that I keep that problem. One day I will try to solve it. So that was the beginning of Rarefied Microscale test dynamics. So anyway, it's personal journeys. So the same will, for you, you will have not only one topics, more and more. So be prepared and stay hungry and ambitious. And at least 30 something and until 40 something, maybe not. You have to be very careful about choosing your career and the topics. But 30 something, 20 something, you have leverage to do and to try everything you want. Okay, so research goals. This is what I'm trying to do. So this is the current topics. So the fundamental idea intensive and also application lab intensive. So in particular this case, I rely on students. But this case, I'm keeping by myself sometimes on this topic because it's all about ideas. All about. I can do these things while in travel, like these occasions. So, and on the mountain, I can think because it's a matter of the ideas. So, that case, sometimes lucky enough, I can generate enough ideas to publish in the good journals, including RMD, Magnitude Hydrodynamics. In this area, I have to produce the practical output, like the survivability, the icing, lightning, and generating aerodynamic data for some weapon designs and so on. Recently, the lunar plum and dust interactions. So Korea tried to launch those to explore maybe 3 or 4 years later to moon. So in that case, the rocket motors try to land down. Then the rocket motors will generate the gas. The gas is impingement on the surface of the Luna. We call regulus. It's very special because Luna is the billion years old and no atmosphere. That's different from what you find in on Earth. Very different. The dust is very different. But once those plum generate those dust pumping off, there is no air, no drag. It can gain speed. Mach number 5. Anyway, those dust, within a couple of minutes, circling all of the moons. So that's a topic. The United States already done that. I'm trying to more efficiently. Maybe Rakesh be aware of these topics.
We are actually trying to work on it.
Oh, you are working on it. Very good. But it's a multi-phase.
Yes.
A very interesting problem. It's more like the aircraft icing. Icing, you have drum net carried by air, but the presence of the drum net will not interfere air itself. That's one-way approximations. That approximation is working. So the question is that kind of thing. Mathematics is very important. And the challenging one. Okay, so why in this course, as I showed, yesterday, today, tomorrow, it's unified. My idea is this one. I say bold propositions. Any materials undergoing internal motions basically have 2 parts in molecular level. Either move or do something or undergo interactions. I avoid collisions. And gas times, of course, that interaction only occurs through collisions or near collisions. But the viscoelastic case may not that simple. So that case, just the interaction is enough. Some F's close or particular moment that macromoleculars undergo something, the interaction. That's all I need. So eat, move, eat interactions. Mathematically, it's kinematic dissipations. Through the dissipations, those irreversible process comes in. Very, very important. So that's why we need thermodynamics here. Because at the fundamental level, there's dissipations, and there's collisions. Those collisions, you have to worry about second law of thermodynamics. The kinematics, no, it's just moving without any interaction. So movement, interactions. So therefore, either gas or liquid or even viscoelastic can be unified within that concept. That's my proposition. And then with that concept, you can develop some mathematics and then models. Then later on, you can try the models at the practical calculations and try to describe, explain those complex fluid motion in more efficient way and with some physics attached. That's what I'm trying to do. So I already mentioned here. So I will talk about this one in detail, the last page. So in this lectures, so most of the materials you received this morning, or part 1, I think the 6th my lecture notes. So you'll find it, many cases is very simple problem. So why I'm carefully chose these topics, because again, concept idea is more important than all the details. Once you are just intimidated by or confused by details, you cannot see big pictures. So like the rarefied micro, those challenging topics, you need clear understanding of what you are trying to do there. So in order to do that, I limit the topics, very simple problem, also in many cases analytic. Even though I'm training CFD, I like CFD, but I like more theory than CFD because that can give me clear understanding. Sometimes ideal level, clear understanding is more important than all those beautiful contours. And also, at the same time, I was training engineering. I supposed to build some airplane. So with that in mind, always, even though I'm working on very theoretical subject, always I have in mind the practical approach. So if I find, this theory, while it's beautiful, if there is a fundamental limitation in application, I probably will not pursue it. So all the topics I chose is carefully chose both, either the fascinating in theory and also the application. And I already mentioned Mesoscale. Mesoscale means micro is molecular level, macro is continuum or statistical average is possible. Between I call mesoscale. Please remember this word, very important one. Whenever you try to understand soft matter, the complex fluid, all those stuff, mesoscale viewpoint is key, including dissipative, particle method, something like that. It's all about mesoscale, even turbulence modeling. It's all about. So why things so complicated? Because we are trying to depart from safe ground defined by Navier-Stokes. It's linear. So most of engineering based on linear. And the first order. This is not textbook, taught you. Hooke's law, Navier-Stokes, the Fourier law, all about this one. But RMJ required living from this safe ground. You have to explore unknown territory, which I call second order, the nonlinear. By the way, mathematics sometimes is so complicated, but the engineers, what is important is the concept. So my favorite test problem to all graduate wannabe is, can you distinguish ordinary differential equation and partial differential equation, and also what is the difference between linear and nonlinearity? That's two most the important problem I think every engineers must know. So ODE PD is simple, right? So I already mentioned this is a PDE, right?
I'll do later. It is slide.
Oh, slide. Oh, this is
no.
this is a PDE, but you know that because this is partial derivative, so you know this is PDE. But the PDE is because you have what is it? Independent variable is more than 2. So definition is if independent variable is more than 2, they become the PDE because you have to distinguish the t from x. Otherwise, you will use dx because independent variable is just 1. So this is the first problem, test problem. And then linear nonlinearity. I told you my story. I wasn't impressed by linear Maxwell equations, but I was impressed by nonlinear dynamics. That means I'm pretty much sure that I understand linear and the nonlinearity. This is simple. I mean, you can go back to the middle high. Probably you have the function fx, and then if you choose x1 and x2 instead of just 1, then whether or not they become x1 and f2, if this is valid, that's linear. If this is not true, that's nonlinear. So it's that simple. But in the nature, of course, all things is nonlinear. But if you're working on the small deviation or small deformation, small velocity gradients, that's non-equivalent. Otherwise, everything is homogeneous. All living animals is bad. There is no wind motions, no fan rotating. Every disturbance will provide gradients. Whether or not this is small, then nature can be explained by linear. But this is big, like hypersonic or supersonic, and so on. Small temperature gradient is high for a given time, then nature cannot be explained by linear or not. That's LMG is about. That's the first encounter of the at least the fluid dynamics of that. Please remember this is simple things. The mathematically complete different story. The linear equation all can be solved by hand or symbolic mathematics software. Nonlinear is not. Each case very difficult. Each case it requires some ingenuity to solve nonlinear equation. Nature is so complicated in general. So because of that, I prefer numerical solutions. And also another one. By the way, measure scale means so initially you have the individual molecules. And then top level, you want to define statistical average. In order to do that, you need at least some number of molecules. How many? It depends on the problem. It can be 1,000, it can be 10,000, I don't know. But you have to carefully think about that. So my point is, if I can define statistical average, then from the kinetic equation, I can develop those continuum equations, which will give us measure scale, the connections in the form of viscosity, in the form of Hooke's law, and so on. That's what I'm trying to do here. But difference is I'm starting from kinetic equation. That's different. You can derive those equations from experiment or heuristic or empirical approach. But the subject you are dealing with is so complicated, that method will not work. The case by case, you can propose some good model to describe the shampoo, but the exact same model cannot be used to not shampoo, some milk or other substance. In that case, we need kinetic theory. And then I will show you how to do it. And then another point is always qualitative and holistic of the quantitative and fragmental agreement. What I'm saying fragmental means, for example, most of you are mechanical or aerospace engineering, you have the airplane, that you have to worry about lift coefficient and also drag coefficient too. Because the lift coefficient, you have to up in the air, and the drag coefficient, you have to build the airplane efficient. But exactly the same, the safety code, like in such a fluent, you run one airfoil fluid case, and you check lift coefficient and drag coefficient together, and then provide this solution to your supervisor or customers. They look at CD first. In many cases, satisfied. Oh, that's what I expected. In many cases, CD. Are you sure this is data you give me? In many cases, CD is not accurate. It means even one set of the solutions, whether or not you are looking at CL, CD, your confidence is different. So that in the RMG particular, you can make your theory look so good. While you apply that method to slight different output like a CD, you miserably fail. I want to avoid that. That's what I meant. Rather than fragmented knowledge, I always holistic. I want to make sure that our theory at least balanced in predicting something. So in this class also I try to do so. Also qualitative, not quantitative. And there are also validation and verification. You must distinguish verification and validation. I'll explain this one probably next lectures. Very important. In short, we call VMV because NCC Fluents sell a lot of the license and a lot of money because they are verified, in many cases validated. So our range in particular, because very few experimental data, and the application you are dealing with is so complicated, in many cases very difficult to verify. But they are very important. So, and this one. Above all, I said the alien spirit is needed because textbook probably you will not find answers to your questions. So, because as I said, we are talking about the regime beyond safe first order linear laws. We are talking about second laws, at least. I'm not talking about third laws. By the way, I went through many conceptual revisions because I started from this subject in 1996 in the 7th, very seriously, it's 20 years ago. Even though I, based on Professor Yu's generalized hydrodynamics, I could derive many computation models, but my understanding of dedication changed from the time. In many cases, that's typical. So be prepared. The things you think right now may be different from tomorrow. But that's difficult. So I will share that kind of thing. And also, in particular, Viscoelastic, I never published that ideas to the open journals. One try is rejected as normal. I'm not that disappointed because during the process that 20 years, the papers I'm most proud of normally rejected. Because the things I presented is serious one, and it may be threatened to the competitor. So be prepared for such a thing. So I'm preparing the same thing in the viscoelastic field. And also I'm beginner, as I told you. I'm not expert in that area. So anyway, I will share that kind of things. And also, I mentioned failure and stories. So I will show you some of the review comments I got. That's necessary. Sometimes review process, I got no ideas. It become another journal papers. In my case, 2014 papers, that product. I'm very proud of it because I fought with anonymous those reviews 1 or 2 years. Above all, but nonetheless, there's something I cannot convince it. Even though my heart, I confident, but I cannot demonstrate, I cannot convince the opponent. It took 2 years. And please, not afraid of such things. Very, very important. And I also try to show you some hands-on theory. It's simple. I'm not talking about very complicated computer program. It's a simple Fortran program. But I will show you the power of such things. So, because most of you are the PhD candidate, I heard, and become next generations. Sometimes I like reading this kind of the articles, typically Physics Today or others, because it gives me the perspective and how I have to think of my research and so on. So in this case, I call alien spirit. So, which means try to step outside the established line of reasoning. So, including textbook. Sometimes you have to deliberately choose this path. Another one is needed to feel comfortable with being different. And textbook will not help very much. I like this word. It's the codified set of solve the problem. I think the textbook is defined this way. It's codified set of the solved problem. It's not solved problem. So that's the personal opinions of authors. Even though they are very influential, respected, but nonetheless, that's their opinion. And that's the importance of reading by yourself the original journal papers. Okay, so try to scrutinize everything we learn from textbook. In particular, underlining assumptions. Because what happened was, Professor Grant published that beautiful piece of the work, 1949, and of the 100 pages, the next follows somehow skip those vital assumptions. And they're forgotten. Then, one generation later, people do something very strange because they didn't pay attention to those underlying assumptions. In many cases, that's typical. So always try to talk to the person who developed original theory. Don't rely on the publications. It is polished. So again, this is one thing I like to emphasize. Questions. What are the essence of RMG? So to me, I told you the measure scale is required in the method. The one needed to think beyond linear first order the world, those kind of things. But in the bottom line, it's just more movement and interaction, that kind of thing. To me, that kind of thing is essence of the RMG. What is the ultimate origin of Lucent minimum? So every rarefied gas dynamics, this is a famous problem. I think some of you already know that, Lucent minimum. The Lucent is the name of the physicist. The minimum is minimum mass flow rate. You have the tube, the pressure driven, which one end is maintain high the pressure, another one is low pressure, then you can expect flow will come this way. And whether or not it's a rarefied state or dense state, the rarefied particular state, in the mass flow rate somehow increase after some critical Lucent number. Very strange. That we call Lucent minimum. So many publications, and I like that problem, but I like to challenge this morning. Well, what is the ultimate original behind these things? You think you know that answers? To me, no, I don't know. I will tell you why. What bothering me? The fundamentally, it's simple. You can measure it. I mean, you have models. You can make easily adding some extra slips. You can make always. You can make minimum, but that doesn't necessarily explain whole things because you have only information of mass flow rate. So my challenge is how about temperature profile? So mass flow rate is just one quantity again among many things. In particular, that is integration. That's dangerous because you integrate. Once you integrate, a lot of the details lost. The final outcome looks okay, but what happened between, you don't know. So that's a challenge. Later on, I will give you some hints. But that kind of thing. So if you think those simple problem is already solved, no, it's not solved in the sense of. So if I satisfy with explaining Lucid minimum, it's all right. But if you're interested in holistic viewpoint, you have to still know. Okay, another big question is, this was maybe 10 years, there's a debate. I remember the name Howick in the Germany, which probably internet you can find it. I'm not sure. And the last name is I know, something like that. And this person and Howick, the German research, about 10 or 15 years when the micro gas channel is hot, and this person say, I'm not particularly against him, I never met him, I don't know him, but he represents some groups telling you, oh, why you are bothered, those second laws. We have beautiful Navier toxications, and then using ancient fluents, they run it. You explain what you found from micro channel. That was their opinion, with some slips. And on the other hand, including me and the Kedehar, oh, you need second order or something else. So that kind of thing. So right now, no more in this group, because probably you are here to learn such things. Life, the nature is not that simple. I mean, life is complicated. We need to develop some complicated. You should not be afraid of complexity, because if nature requires, you have to do it. So anyway, it's not simple extrapolation. I will show you why. Later on. Okay, I'm supposed to even 45?
Yeah, still you have 25 minutes.
25 minutes, okay. Okay, this is again, the VMV is very difficult. I mean, too many computation models. You can propose another solid, second order, and so on, you can publish it. Too many computation models and very few experimental data. In many cases, just the mass flow rate. You don't have the temperature profile, you don't have the pressure, you only have stream-wise pressure distributions. You don't have the course stream. So pretty difficult to measure. So that's one problem. And the TSMC, while it's beautiful theory, it has also limitations. So I will show you how to verify TSMC. I explain also experimental data. So EU micro gas network, they spending some money in the particular experimental program. So like the Professor Colin, Imperial College, I don't know where,
Stephen Collins.
Yeah, Stephen Collins.
Gas lumps.
Yeah, they're doing fantastic work. So you can use for BMV. And sometimes there's lack of theory, the fundamental theory, like diatomic gas. I will show you my opinion, but nonetheless, in general, there's no consensus. How kind of the kinetic theory. Monatomic gas is got limitations. No question about it. But beyond that, there's no consensus. Another big issue is boundary condition. As I told you, mathematicians hate it, but we have to live with it. It's just solid wall interaction. I don't think there is fundamental theory enough to explain everything. So you still rely on some empirical or curative method. So all my lectures based on my publications, most of the publication is somehow authored by myself. It's single author. The reason is simple, because as I told you, it's an idea-intensive work. So not necessarily I need the student. While I'm supervising many students, but this is subject I still keeping. So therefore, I'm pretty much sure what's going on in all those papers. So the MHD papers, why I'm bringing this MHD papers, because there's mathematical skills can be useful to RMG. That's important. In particular, dynamical system. Dynamical system is very well respected subject in mathematics. Many couple of the field medals coming from dynamical system. So I learned in MHDB to solve those nonlinearity. I learned little bit about dynamic system, and I found again they're very powerful. So I will show you such things. And then arrange papers. So mostly physics of fluid. I don't know why I start from physics of fluid, but the name is very good because RMG is somehow physics about the fluid. So general fluid mechanics is number one journals, but mechanics something like the limit a little bit about. So anyway, I start from my academic career, so from publishing physics of fluid. I still doing so. I don't have good relationship with JFM. I don't know why. But I'm very proud of the community citizen of the physics of fluids. So I will often use physics of fluid, POF, JCP, and general computational physics, and the computer fluid, and so on. So most of the lecture note based on these things. Recently, another two papers on the physics of fluid. As I told you, viscoelastic fluid is ongoing topics. So why I open this thing to you guys? Because this is not about individual efforts. So I have no problem in sharing some of my ideas to all of you. You can take it. If you have the skills, you can develop your own theory. But I will share some of it. Oh, I once attended APS fluid dynamics meeting, and then they presented this work. Okay, I'm supposed to memo, but because we have 20 minutes, so I cannot do this work without my graduate student. So former postdocs, Dr. Xiao, he's professor in the Northwestern Political University in Xi'an. Through him, I learned about all kind of the Chinese activities in this area. And Dr. Rana, he's I think in the United Kingdom, and he's postdoc, and he's former student of the Henning structural area. And okay, and he did some MD work. And then my graduate student, the Iranian, and the Karchani and so on, and some from India too, and some Koreans. Okay, so this is the Professor Kumar will distribute those papers. So I will talk about the Maxwell and the graph. This one is most important one. On the kinetic theory of rarefied gas, the communications on pure and applied mathematics, that's leading journals in this subject. And then his 1952, the profiles of steady plane shock wave. I mean, you can sense that why Professor Grad. Very interesting to see, check his biography. I think that's the end of the World War II. I think he is part-time student. He's not full-time student. It's not very famous school like the MIT. I think it's the New York, the Polytechnic University, something like that. And the part-time student. But his supervisor was a very famous person, Freddie, something like that. And they found out enormous talent in mathematics. So he guided him pursue PhD. This is work of PhD study. Beautiful work. Can you imagine at that time there's no word process and the writing, all kind of mistake. And he is very skilled, I think, mathematician. And then 1952 papers. So why he developed this one? Because the government, the state, wanted to learn about shockwave, either bomb or hypersonic vehicle. Remember, that's just before dawn of space age. So he belonged to top mathematical group in that effort. And then that's why he chose that one. That's why he chose the first application of his theory to shockwave. but he miserably failed. So you can sense that his frustration. I will show you. Maybe later on, I will show you his frustrations. And because of that, if you follow his kind of theory, there's broad side, there's a pumper, there's a success, there's a failure. Very few people remember this failure. That's a normal human behavior. They always citate the first one, skip second one, because they will give you failure. But if you are serious about research, should not be afraid of failures. You have to live with it. So I'm joking. I learned something like this one. The best friend to any serious research must be the basket. What is the basket there? Because full of all kinds of rejected papers. That should be your best friend. I completely agree with you. I mean, this is not just everyday success. You struggle, you're disappointed, you are rejected. Overcoming, you can have your original stuff. So again, this is no exception. So this 1950, I never met Professor Clyde, but just reading his papers, in particular 1952, I think he is a good person. He shared his frustrations. Anyway, better read it. And then I will talk about Professor BCU later on, and then all others, the European, they are chemists. I will talk about why I brought, the last person is mathematician, Levermore. He's a student of Lex. Do you know PD Lex? The famous, the hyperbolic system, yeah, he is originator of hyperbolic system, which means Riemann problem, all for modern safety, rely on basically his theory and so on. And then this is, to me, history of RMG, the Navier, Fourier, Maxwell, Boltzmann, you all know that. Why Gibbs? I will explain why. And then Onsager and the Prigogine. I think Gibbs, I don't know Gibbs, but Onsager, Prigogine won Nobel Prize in the, not physics, it's chemistry. Why in the world RMG is somehow something to do with this? Because I just told you, in the fundamental level, either movement or interactions. Interactions, there's dissipation. Dissipations, which mean irreversible thermodynamics. That comes with that. So Prigogine won the Nobel Prize explaining dissipations. Some similar one is one side. And then following their work, Muller, Yu. So Yu, Muller, they are competing each other. The Yu and so on. I mean, they somehow, the same subject, we call it physical chemistry, irreversible thermodynamics. Forgotten in modern chemistry, they work on all kinds of other things, but still conceptually very tough problem. Each area of statistical mechanics and so on, I found very interesting. And then, on the other hand, next line is mathematically oriented. I'm not saying Chapman is only mathematical, probably physical, so on. But to me, their approach is more like mathematics oriented. Chapman, Ensport, Grad, Truesdale, Chachganani, Dr. Levermore, Villani. I think last three persons still live. Yeah. But Chachganani passed away, I think, several years ago. And on the other hand, locally Italian mathematics, he's still publishing. The Levermore, he is a student of Lex, and he proposed it called Gaussian close. I will explain later what that means. Means the RMG, they have a mathematics group, the physics group, chemistry group, like me, engineering group. But it happened to be I somehow had the one of best position in contact with all of those guys. Somehow I was lucky enough. Professor Lowe provided initial contact with mathematicians. And the chemistry somehow I served somehow opened the channels through the books and so on. Cases, yeah, the same thing. So anyway, the Villani is mathematician. I think he won the Fielder Medal. about 7 or 8 years. Why in the world mathematics give field medal? It is simply because Boltzmannification. They are interested in not our like. They are interested in well-positionists of Boltzmannification, in particular for some potentials. So Pierre Lyons and Villani, he's very young. He's a celebrity, very popular in France. You better check his work. Probably he wrote one summary of Boltzmannifications from mathematical viewpoint. Very good. I think it is 30 something. He's more genius. And so it's mathematics as well. Church-Haniel, I don't need to introduce. There are several books. But my approach is somehow very different from theirs. Okay, so I will tell you some thermodynamics. Thermodynamics is a funny subject. The first time you go through it, you don't understand it at all. The second time you go through it, you think you understand it, except for 1 or 2 small points. The third time you go through it, you know you don't understand it, but by the time you are so used to it, something like that. This is typical. I mean, I think all of you will agree. Because in the sometime class, why we have to learn thermodynamics? In the end, we will not use it, right? Except efficiency cannot be higher than 100, something like that. I mean, that's the only place second law of thermodynamics comes in. Why others? Why testing? That kind of thing. So I agree. But I will show you that's not the story with RMG. We play critical role. And then most of mathematicians, because in their career, they never exposed to thermodynamics. They don't know why this one. It will make big difference. That's why I chose the chemical viewpoint of mathematical viewpoint. Because I always train in engineers. I believe nature rather than some conceptual song. That's my anyway, the way to think. So anyway, the second law of thermodynamics, you will see importance of this one. By the way, this Professor Truss is very, very interesting person. And you can, he's joking, try to read it. Anyway, he's joking about those persons, Gonzaga, Prigogine, Gibbs, and so on. There is the fighting each other. Mathematicians, they think, why we need thermodynamics? The mathematics like freedom. But the chemists, on the other end, they believe in nature. But nature always gives you laws. They believe in conservation laws. They believe in, let's say, theory of relativity, something like that. They believe in first law, second law of thermodynamics. That's the fundamental gap between chemistry and mathematicians. You didn't know that, right? This kind of the fighting. But to me, immediately after I entered this, I sensed that. Therefore, somehow I'm the opponent to the mathematician, even though I brought many good things to the mathematics. So I can sense that. That's all right. But if I choose one, I will take off chemistry. Because we are talking about the equations, trying to describe nature. So unless you question fundamental laws, like the second law of thermodynamics, you must honor them. Okay. So this is the Navier-Stokes. I already told you this is Navier-Constitutional. The important one is equal, but it's actual assignment. When you determine viscous shear stress, you basically rely on two information. One is at the viscosity. Typically, it's the function of temperature. And also, gradient of velocity, the J. That's the most important one. So anyway, that's the first law. On the other end, there is kind of this. I deliberately avoid mentioning these things. I will explain why in the the last lecture. Because once you look at these details, you lose something. Because it's so complicated terms. But you don't need to do so. To me, important one is, oh, there's a star, there's no star. I will explain what that means. You have to look at this term that way. There is a star, but other term is no star. So anyway, I just collectively say it's C, the collision, based on binary collision. One distribution function of the first particle, the second one. That's it. Just I will use the C, the G. There are dispersion code. You have to worry about second order thermodynamics. It's complicated. Anyway, that's it. All I needed, and this is kinematic term. I carefully manipulate this to the terms. So that's the Boltzmann equation. So that equation is 1872. After 1822, there's a gap, 50 years. Why in the world, without this equation, because this equation derived not from this kind of equation, but some based on integral calculus and so on. So this is empirically derived equation, while it's beautiful equation. This is not the same as conservation mode, because you put constant equation. When you use this kind of equation, there is assumptions. Again, underlying assumption. So this is first order linear world. So RMG, you have to not necessarily abandon, but more like an onion. You live with one layers. The onion is many layers. So this is first order. You feel comfortable. You are trying to second order. So it is smooth. The important one is your theory must smooth transition. So Navier structure must be inclusive. Sometimes those mathematical beautiful theory, they fail miserably in that first state. So therefore, after 50 years later, kinetications of people's understanding of gas improved. So there's a molecular one, this is continuum based. So this is a proper scribe. So again, so we'll see again his derivations. This is history, true state. He's a very influential person. He actually established several journals, including Journal of Rational Mechanics. I mean, when I first confronted with these journals, I thought, why you need rational? What that means? What that mean? Rational mechanics. That means there is irrational mechanics. To me, that is very strange. But that is philosophy. So to him, his theory is rational. All others may be irrational. I don't know. But very powerful journalists. But there are many followers. Nothing wrong with it. I mean, science and engineering, that's typical because diversity is required. Let them people try many things. So this is, to me, the first encounter to the BCU. He's chemist. Now he's old, almost 80 years old. And after PhD, I luckily want those NRC research associate in the astronauts. I remember vividly one time because it's huge institute. And the good thing about that research associate is let them allow whatever they want to do. So 2 years, basically, it's just my individual. I freely go to library, meet someone and so on. So virtually no the restrictions. So I pick up subject I found interesting, but I belong to the scientific computing, in particular space plasma. Plasma is a rarefied state. So again, I kept that challenge from my colleague, the failure of the Leavenworth Gaussian close. So one typically after lunch. At that time, there's no internet freely available. Therefore, I have to visit again library. That center library is big. So I typically check first probably AIA journals, and then physics of fluid, JCP, and then typically I end up to some mathematical journals. Later on, physics journal too. There is fluid section. Physical review, E. One, the lunchtime, pick up most recent PLE. That was 1998. I typically look at titles. The topic I like. On that particular day, I found shockwave. Remember, my PhD topic is shockwave, Riemann problem. So I found the name was shockwave and generalized hydrodynamics. What is different? I looked at, opened that page, and I just immediately read abstract, and I saw the figures. I found something very, very interesting, because I know in the shock calculation, people are talking about shock density, inverse thickness. Remember, shock thickness is 10 micron, very thin. In that small regions, how steep the density is very important. In that particular journal papers, they somehow seems to present the first the shock, the calculation beyond the stops. Seems to me just overcoming this Gradus 1952 failures. So I was so excited, just copied that one, and then I spent about 1 month in order to learn their papers, and of course the reference. I found 10 or 10. And then I read them all. And then I realized, oh, this is something I can do. I can bring this knowledge into the engineering. And then I checked authors. The first one is Agawa, that is strange, Middle East. The second one is EU. So EU. So EU is European. So I thought he's European. No internet at the moment. And then anyway, I thought, oh, some European guys, and then checked internet. 1998, there was internet available. And then I found he's Korean American, very old. And he's a chemist. I never thought, I never met him. Anyway, until a couple of years later. So that person is a PCU. So because he's so influenced in my research, about 10 years I invited my university. There's lectures and still collaboration. We didn't publish anything as co-authors, but nonetheless, academically, I respect Martin, also I love him. So he's PCU. So this is physical review. Oh, it was not shockwave, but the general dynamics and the shockwaves. So physical review. And then this is my supervisor, Professor Rowe. I learned from Professor Rowe, I think, 2 things. One is, anyway, he still keeping his work. And not like any professor in big university, if you have the big research group, normally you rely on PhD postdocs. You stop working by yourself, only checking final output, only just revising the final manuscript and submit it. And as like the professor, no one will reject it unless there is serious mistake. That's typical. But Professor Rowe, not that kind. He is still working by himself. In many cases, he published a single author. Anyway, that's one thing I learned. So that's probably because I'm trying to do similar things. So in the case of a liquid, in my lectures, I deliberately avoid mentioning liquid. Even though microfluidics, nanofluidics, people use both. But the reason I deliberately distinguish is simple. As I emphasized, I'm interested in Microscale. If you look at the molecular level of liquid and gas, they are different. One most significant difference is gas is, if you look at very small scale, there's the the sphere glide and move a long distance, even though there's many particles, until another collisions. That we call mean free path. So typically gas, when you define degree of the reflection, is we call the Lucent number based on that one, in comparison with the characteristic length. How about liquid? You cannot define Lucent number. I will talk about these things. So, which means there is no guideline. I mean, that doesn't mean I'm not thinking liquid. I'm very interested in liquid too. Just the reason is I don't have time to do so. And also, it's too difficult in the fundamental level. But the one thing I like to point out, in particular, those mesoscale descriptions, the one thing is free volume. Because the liquid, you have molecules. They are so compact. Therefore, you have one ball, there is empty space. They become important. So that we call free volumes. So free volumes play critical role in the modeling liquid. That's a critical difference. The gas, we don't have such free volume. You don't have to worry about that. So that's a big difference. Other than that, probably surface tensions. So I'm just talking about what is the new things when you from ordinary scale to micro nanoscale in the case of liquid. That's two things too. So if you take into account those two things, free and the surface tension and the free volume, then in many cases you can handle that, at least at the modeller's viewpoint. Unless you are talking about interface, very small scale, the liquid particle, the solid world atomic scale interactions. That's really required MD simulation and so on, because you have to assign some potentials and you have to monitor what they are doing. So other than that, in particular continuum level, not much difference from gas. So in that sense, gas is, even if that's simple, it's challenging because you have to worry about those high Lucent number effects. So that's one thing I'd like to mention. Another one is, some of you are working on hypersonic case. That's the chemically reacting gas. So what that has to do with this one is, I'm talking about just the fundamentals. So how do you use these lectures? If you're interested in chemically reacting, then you can add first case of vibration and non-equilibrium. So you can add another occasions, taking into account vibration mode, typically 700 Kelvin and so on. In that case, you cannot, monatomic case, you don't have any vibration mode. But diatomic case, you have to put those the vibration mode. Other than the dissociation, all kind of complexity. It's too complicated. In many cases, you can use just Navier-Stokes and so on. In our case, maybe you can use second order conservation law with the vibration mode equations and some multi-species and so on. You can basically the same thing. What you do, the Navier-Stokes. Okay, back to the this slide. So there was the first encounter with the previous view, and because his theory is not easily understandable to me, at least. And then I emailed a lot, and lucky enough, he found me also somehow. He said, I'm the first person to try his theory. Therefore, somehow he responds every time when I have some questions. So that took a couple of years, and then I almost understood his theory and then applied my problems and so on. Anyway, and he's right now retired, and he published, I think, 5 or 6 monographs and 1 textbook. So this is one monograph, the non-equilibrium statistical mechanics ensemble research. This is not engineering book, this is not mathematical book, this is chemistry book. But some concepts is explained in this book. Anyway, I found the preface of this book very very impressive and so on. So whenever my work is rejected, I'm disappointed, and I read this one. So Okay, applications. So high altitude flying vehicles, microsensors, actuators, many. Recent application would be, so this is the traditional one, the OLED, organic light emitting diode, deposition devices. This is modern the screen. So that rely on those depositions of the particular the types of complex molecules. So how they manufacture these things, one way to do it is make the near vacuum and let those complex molecules as gas, and somehow they deposit on the surface of some devices. They also exactly the same theory can be applied to the not gas molecules, but the electron is transporting semiconductor. Many mathematicians is working, in particular you can. So you can apply exactly the same theory from gas dynamics to this problem. The challenges, as I told you, are explained, is a known problem. They're not easily testable. The theoretical barriers, not only communication, the boundary equations. Typically, the second order communication, it sometimes takes space more than one page. You have to, just the equations is 2 pages. You have to solve it. That's huge challenge. There are many bugs. You don't know what's happening there. But that's a problem. That's a challenge. There also cross-disciplines. It's not only the fluid dynamics, but also mathematics and chemistry and so on. So many disciplines required to understand this kind of problem. Okay, that was the first lectures. By the way, any questions for lecture 1?
Could you once again explain what is mesoscale?
Mesoscale. Mesoscale means you understand microscale, which is molecular level. Macro is continuum scale, let's say centimeter and so on. Mesoscale means between the bridge two worlds. That's mesoscale. Mesoscale. So micro means the atomic, with Armstrong, the nano, and the scale we are talking about. The macro means centimeter and meter. Mesoscale, all of things between them. So in nature, in everything, we call complex system. In the case of gas, you have the gas molecules. In the case of granular flow, like a sand, you have the maybe 1 millimeter size, the dust. The granular flow, very famous one. You go to the beach and try it. I mean, you have the dust, the making mountains, like this one. Suddenly, a particular angle, it just collapses. That's a very famous problem, very difficult to predict. So complex system means individually you can understand, like MD, I mean, just Newton equation, you solve it. But collectively, very funny things, very strange things happen. Very difficult to understand. So, it's nature, everything is complex system.